there.
What is an open primary? People are talking about you advocating the idea of open primary, okay?
The phrase open primaries means like infinite number of things, right? And there are, in a sense, infinite variations on an electoral system. What I always say when I observe Oklahoma City's effectiveness over the last, quarter century and more, and people always look at Oklahoma City and Tulsa and they say, for whatever successes or failures you have, gosh, it sure seems like you're electing mayors that unify people, that seem competent, that are well-liked across the political spectrum. And it's not magic. I mean, there really are aspects of this that directly trace back to how you elect people. And so I say all that to say that in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, we have basically a nonpartisan top two. You could call it a jungle primary. You could call it any number of things. You call it a unified primary. But the reality is it has two principles that I think are critical. Every voter gets to see all of the candidates, and all of the candidates have to face all of the voters. And we have all, or three of the four of us, have all run through a closed partisan primary and understand how how that influences, because you're appealing, especially today, to a narrower and narrower slice of the electorate. I guess, in contrast to the two of you, have run in the different system. I have also run in a system like we have in Oklahoma City, where when I faced the electorate, it was every registered voter, every Republican, every Democrat, and every independent. And it's just a different incentive structure. And I think the evidence bears it out, you naturally get a better outcome. You get candidates who are trying to bring people together. I often say that neither in Oklahoma City or in the country are people actually all that polarized. Maybe the extremes are, 15% at both ends, but there's a 70% of people in the middle who just want to work together and get things done. They are Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. They're willing to compromise. And what we have seen as a formula for success in Oklahoma City absolutely could be replicated at the state level, and that's what people are talking about.
So what you're saying, Mayor, with an open primary, you go in, you get a ballot with everybody's names on it, all the Republicans, all the Dems, all the Independents, and you vote for whoever you like. So you could essentially end up with a general election involving two Republicans or two Democrats.
Yeah,
whoever get the most.
In the current political dynamic of Oklahoma, that last option is almost impossible.
But that dynamic wouldn't really change because you wouldn't do away with parties. So you would still
you
have,
still have the party names. Yeah, right.
So it could be two Ds. That could be your final. Could be two Ds, two Rs.
Maybe in the House District 88 or something, but not statewide. You'd probably have two Rs in many cases, but
given the current, the prevailing political.
I mean, there's a Senate. California has a top two. They're about to have a U.S. Senate race, and they have an R and a D, and that's California, right? They didn't end up with two Ds. So
how many states have open primaries right now? That's you just talking about California.
Great question.
About half? I mean,
well, and again, and I said it in the earlier segment, open primary is such a fluid concept, right?
Okay.
I mean, but I should say, what states kind of try to bring people together, unify you in a primary, maybe where you get everybody gets the same ballot? That's an open question. I don't know the answer. I didn't come with that data, but it's definitely not unheard of by any means. And as we said in the last segment, it's also not unheard of in the state of Oklahoma. It's literally how I run, with the only differentiation being that I don't have a party label next to my name.
Yeah, it's nonpartisan.
It's technically nonpartisan, but otherwise it's the same thing. All the candidates, and it's funny, as we came out of the break, you were describing the system like it was some weird foreign concept, which is perfectly natural because it's not the way we have. But if you brought some high school civics student to sit at this table and said, how does American democracy run? They'd say, well, all the candidates who want to hold the office, they put their name out there, and then all the voters show up and they get the ballot with all their names and they vote for their favorite. It's not that weird, right?
Yeah.
So when I hear open primary, I hear jungle primary, I think about Louisiana, 1992.
Okay.
Buddy Roemer was governor. He was a Democrat, switched to Republican as governor while he was governor.
Okay.
Edwin Edwards had been to prison, former Democrat governor, running for governor. David Duke, state representative from Metairie, Louisiana, a Republican, former Grand Wizard of the KKK, all running a jungle primary in 1992 in Louisiana.
Yes.
Buddy Roemer, the governor, gets beat. It's down to Edwin Edwards,
knocked out. He finishes third.
Edwin Edwards, the former crook, and David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the KKK.
And the bumper sticker was, vote for the crook, it's important.
Vote for the crook, it's important.
He stole your punchline.
No, there's no punchline. There's no punchline. It's the concern. And that's one anecdote, one real-life anecdote, all the way back in 1992, but I think it highlights one of the challenges of, now it's Louisiana, right? mean, so very colorful political
Yeah,
history.
right.
It's a home of kingfish.
So, right, there is that. There is that. We're not talking about some
They have
other
a different
states.
legal system.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw mud on it, but
Right.
anytime I hear open primary jungle, I think of that. I kind of
Interesting.
yeah.
But I think
get concerned.
I think of the effective governance we've had in Oklahoma City and Tulsa, and I think of the way that if you go look at in California, who's done this for 15 years, and you start to analyze all these races. Now, see, they're like the opposite of us. They're really blue, right? And we're really red. But that blue had created such extremism in their state politics that they could barely govern. Something that some people here in Oklahoma think that we're bordering on, right? And they have shown that this top two system has pulled them back from that brink, that they have a lot more moderation. They're still blue. They're still electing Democrats because that's who they are, but they're electing, more mature and responsible Democrats who are not always incentivized to pander to the most extreme people in their party. And again, here in
During
Oklahoma,
the primary.
yeah, right. Because the primary is a unified primary where
Everybody.
where you can go get votes from, in California's case, go get votes from some moderate Republicans, go get votes from some independents. In our case, a leading Republican wanting to be the governor would say, you know what, there's a lot of moderate Democrats out there I can appeal to. There's a lot of independents. And I want to build a coalition with all those people instead of just focusing on the people who show up for primaries and runoffs, which is really where many of these most important decisions.
Runoffs, yeah, no doubt.
Some Tuesday in August
Yeah.
that nobody shows up for.
How can we do that? How can we put this into effect in Oklahoma?
I mean,
how could it ever happen?
And
do we have to pass a new law?
not only
Yes.
can we put it in, but are you pushing for it to be put into effect?
Well, okay, so I'm here today because you all invited me. I have no official role in any of this,
yeah.
but I am a proselytizer for it because I feel like I've lived both sides of it and I've seen how it works and how it doesn't work.
Okay, you think it's a good idea?
But yeah, there are definitely people who are working on it. It would almost surely require a petition drive. I mean, the legislature could do this, but
Statewide
likely
question.
won't.
Initially petition.
That's not
I was
gonna
being kind. Likely won't.
Julie Canusa, the Academy of State Goals. There's people like that talking about this right now.
Oklahoma Academy has had this as one of their ideals for a decade.
Yeah, that's right.
There's lots of really smart people who have seen the success in Oklahoma City and to some extent Tulsa and want to see that replicated at a state level and just want to see candidates incentivized to represent all of us again, and not just appealing to such a narrow slice of the electorate that's not really representative of the whole.
That's fair.